All right,
That's right, Foyer.
yes.
Foyer. We'll be talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, this one guy, I don't know if you ever heard of his name's Glenn Ordway. Some people call him the Big O.
We know each other.
Okay,
we're
so
good.
He invented radio.
All right, there's Louis Merlone. So we call him Lou, okay, a.k.a. Angry Lou.
Yeah.
He's a baseball player. So you're going to be hanging out with us. I know it's a step down, but, we'll try to do the best with them, right?
No, fellas, it's going to be good. I know Glenn real well.
See?
Yeah, I listen to you guys all the time. So it's great to join the show. I'll be excited about it every year. See what I can give you on a weekly basis that you don't already know.
It's going to be awesome. Every Wednesday, Tedy Bruschi is join us on the show. Now, we haven't told Fourier the truth. We were actually looking for somebody that could really analyze football. And so that's why we reached out to you, Tedy. We didn't tell him, so, we'll keep it low. So let's get to football, and then we'll talk about what we're doing over here at Fenway Park. You know the ins and outs. You know all the particulars. You know Brady. You know Belichick. You know Kraft. When you heard all of the stuff in the offseason, would you look at it and say that you'd be concerned about this team because now they're back, they're in camp, and things seem to be settling down? Are you concerned?
About any type of drama off the field, I wouldn't be concerned with any of that. I just know this, that even Bill has told us this in team meeting rooms. There are certain times of the year where their players are very emotional. They're very emotional at the end of the season, and they're very emotional, I've learned, when it comes to contract situations. And we had all of that throughout the course of the offseason with Tom and his future, Gronkowski and his future and his contract. A lot of things had to be worked out. In New England, a lot of things had to be talked about. But inside, it was they'll always just talk about what's next, the next day and the next practice or anything like that. And that type of mentality keeps them away from distractions. Does it get a little bit personal at times? Yes. I mean, I remember, Lloyd Malloy getting released one time during the season and me, saying comments about the organization because, I was pissed off a little bit that friends come and go. But as time goes, you understand that it's part of the business. As time goes, you understand that as you get to be a 13-year linebacker and they draft Gerard Mayo with number 10 overall pick, your time's coming. So I think Tom had to go through that a little bit with Garoppolo. I had to go through that a little bit with Gerard coming in. But I think there's one thing that happened, I think, truthfully, that it's unpredictable. They couldn't predict this, especially Coach Belichick. You had a 40-year-old player win the MVP. A 40-year-old player is still playing great football. He still looks great, had an outstanding last game of the season, surged in that Super Bowl, played really well. And that's something that I think is new in today's NFL, that just because a player is getting up in age at the quarterback position, the way that they're taken care of, and the way that players, especially Tom, are taking care of their bodies, these guys can play a long time. And so with that, the way you look at positions and having players come in competition and end up getting rid of players when they're older, that's got to change.
So I'm going to bring up the Malcolm Butler situation one more time, okay? Because we had Bill on the other day. We had Bill on the other day, and Lou asked a question about open door policy and players coming to talk to you about certain things. In a situation like Malcolm Butler, do guys come and talk to you afterwards? Now I know if anyone has an open door policy, can walk in that office, is it's you. So if that was your year when you were playing and that situation happened with you and you didn't know what happened, you didn't know why he played, would you go in there and ask him, hey, what happened? Why didn't Malcolm play?
Yeah, I would, but I think it'd be weird if they didn't know why, because players have said, I've heard players this offseason say that, they knew it was coming throughout the week. They could see that Malcolm was getting less reps, how it was going to go during the game. So seeing that throughout the week as a player, as a linebacker, seeing what the game plan was, is it Eric Rowe, is it somebody else that's being in there while they're the ones getting the quality reps. You would see the mistakes that were being made. You would see the adjustments that were being made by the coaching staff. So I would think that the players already knew a lot of things going into that game.
Tedy, we talk about that drama, in the offseason, but was there really any doubt in your mind that once camp opened and Bill's talking football and Tom's throwing the balls around, that these two wouldn't come together? I mean, this is their happy place, right? I mean, they're two professionals, top of their game, that you knew once they got back on the field, all that drama would go away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, guys, it was a little bit of eye-opening to me with the off-season program and how Tom had decided, even when he had opportunities to throw with the receivers, that he just decided to keep it to the mandatory mini camps that he was going to be at. That was different. That's a change. That had me sort of raising my eyebrows about what was going on, too. But once he reported for the mandatory mini camp, he reported the training camp on time. I think you got to understand, too, where there are different stages in players' lives where sometimes you want a full off season if you never had it, but that's what he wanted now. As long as he was at the mandatory functions, the mandatory camps, I was okay with it. So once training camp started, Gronkowski's there, Tom's there, I was pretty confident that this would just blow over.
Tedy, the Patriots have just released Kenny Britt. Looking at the receiver depth chart, does this team have to go out and add a receiver?
I don't know how much Kenny was going to do in the first place. I think they've got, for them to bring a receiver in now, it's difficult. It's just so difficult. How many times have we seen them bring receivers in late from all the way being Chad Johnson or whoever, whenever they come in late? It's so hard to learn this system because you can't just play one position. You want to bring Des Bryant in and have him just line up at one position and run one route. It's going to be very difficult for the entire offensive scheme to work around that. I think that they're going to be a lot very tight end based, very running back, maybe playing a lot in the slot, running backs out of the backfield. September, to me, is going to be a very interesting month for the New England Patriots because, the Houston Texans are coming to town. That's a very good team. Usually if there's a unit on one side, say the defense has some getting used to, they're struggling a little bit, they could always count on the offense scoring 25, 30 points a game, whatever it may be, them scoring points. If the offense is still getting used to new personnel and the defense is also getting used to Brian Flores having an increased role and an increased voice in the defense, then you got 2 out of 3 units that are still figuring out who they are, and September is an extension of the preseason for this team already, and so it can be very interesting in terms of the record being in September.
Yeah, see, I think the offense could start slower than years past, but when I look at the defensive side, I go, wow, they got some guys right now, especially on the edge, like young guys like Rivers and Claiborne and Flowers and Wise Jr. Then you throw in this young rookie that everybody loves, Bentley. I actually think the defense could surprise some people, and then they have this one aspect where they can actually get after the quarterback without throwing in a bunch of blitzes, especially on the edges.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hightower is very important this season. I talked to Dante when I was over at training camp and telling him how important he is. He is very important for that defense to be there, to be available to all 16, because I just think he's that important. On the edge, what he can do off the ball, it just frees up a lot of other players. He's an important cog that needs to stay healthy. Defensively, yeah, they looked good the other night getting after the passer. But, it's like they come in bunches for this group. They can go a couple weeks without getting a sack, and all of a sudden they burst and they can get 7-8 sacks. So we'll see how they do over the course of the month of September. But even on the offensive side of the ball too, if you wanted to, coming into training camp, you want to establish a running game with Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel coming in. They're not there. They're not practicing. There's a lot of questions going into the first game of the year.
So, Tedy, obviously the first couple of weeks in preseason, a lot of people talking about this helmet rule. And I think a lot of the ex-players like Christian and others are looking at what they look at as good tackles, safe tackles, are being called penalties now. What has been your take of the first couple of weeks, and can these guys get it right once the season starts, meaning the referees?
The referees are going to make mistakes, just like they've made mistakes. There have been good hits that have been called, that the flags have been thrown. There have been bad calls, but I understand what they're trying to do. The call of that, the good calls where someone is leading with the head or someone's initiating contact with the head, those good calls, I think they have to be continued to be called because, if you think of the Danny Trevathan hit, I think he was the Packer receiver, Devontae Adams, whoever it was. How Shazier ended up suffering his injury, that type of stuff. There are some players in the league that lead with the head. That's what has to stop. And I think they're overemphasizing it in the preseason, which I think is good, because even when they changed the rules back in a few years ago about defensive chucking down the field past 5 yards, it was so blatant and so they just everything they called because they're trying to emphasize something. I'd like to see it done better once the regular season starts, but I do understand what the NFL is trying to do by taking the head out of the tackling equation.
You think September is going to be a wild month for the Patriots? It's going to be a wild month for the league watching that rule. Hey, listen, it's going to be awesome having you on every Wednesday. We're really looking forward to it. You know what we're doing today. We're over here at Fenway Park. We're trying to raise an awful lot of money, obviously, for cancer research. And you know the Jimmy Fund. You know what this thing is all about.
I do. The Jimmy Fund, and what they do is fantastic. My family's been directly affected by cancer. Both my mother and my father passed away to cancer, and also I have a stepfather who's a cancer survivor of throat cancer. So it is prevalent in my family, and any type of difference the Jimmy Fund makes, they do such amazing things, such inspirational stories about comebacks and coming back from cancer and regaining your life. It's what they're all about. They give people a lot of second chances in their lives, and I'm proud to help out today.
If you're a Tedy Bruschi fan, and why wouldn't you be, we need you to pick up the phone at 877-738-1234 and help out the cause here as we try to, would you say, kick cancer's ass?
Yeah, you know,
it's
funny. Like so when Tedy, when I was on the team, and after every game, and Tedy knows this, right? Everybody, they still do it on the team now. At the end of the game, it's like hey, Tedy comes in. It's like, how you feel about a W? How we feel about Brady breaking a record? How you feel about Fourier scoring 2 touchdowns? Right? Yeah. You said that a lot, right, Tedy? So I would say I'm going to do this for him because I don't know where he is, and maybe he doesn't want to say this out loud. Right. So we're gonna go how we feel about donating money to the Jimmy Fund because we want to reach 300,000, and you guys have to say, "Oh yeah!" Okay, that's what we do. Okay, all right, Tedy, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this live. I'm gonna make you proud. Okay?
Go ahead.
Are you ready? You gotta contribute. All right. Okay. All right, everybody. Great job today so far. We're almost there. We gotta get to $3 million, and we don't got a lot of time, so I want you to dial that number, and I want you to call up because how we feel about donating money to the Jimmy Fund. Oh yeah! Bam, man.
That's pretty good.
Tedy, how do you do? Tedy, how do you do? All right.
That's awesome. You did all right. I thought it well.
First week of the season. I think it's September the 5th. Tedy Bruschi will be a regular every Wednesday in OMF. We're really looking forward to it. Thanks for calling in, Tedy. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks, bud.